She thought burying the past would keep her safe, but secrets have a way of rising, and in Maple Hollow everyone is watching. Can Laura survive the darkness she's unleashed? The kitchen clock kept time while she buried the truth. Tom's wedding ring flashed once in the moonlight. By morning, an anonymous text read, "You know what you did." Neighborly smiles turned predatory. Laura thought she could hide a murder, until the town decided she couldn't. The kitchen clock ticked like a slow heartbeat. Tick, tick, tick. Laura Bennett sat at the table with her fingers interlocked, staring at the motionless figure on the floor. The scent of dinner still lingered, roasted chicken, garlic, and red wine, but it was now poisoned by the iron smell of blood. Tom wasn't moving. For a long moment, she couldn't understand what she was looking at. It felt like a scene from a dream, or a nightmare she couldn't wake from. His right hand stretched toward the table leg, palm up, as if reaching for her. The ring on his finger caught the kitchen light, and for a fleeting second she thought she saw him breathe. "Tom," her voice came out small, uncertain. "Tom, please." Nothing. Her throat went dry. The tile beneath him was slick with blood, dark and glistening, creeping outward in uneven lines. The knife lay a few feet away, near the counter. Its steel blade reflected her trembling face in distorted fragments. She backed away until her chair bumped against the wall. It had happened so fast. 1 minute, he was shouting the same words he always used when he drank too much, and the next, she was holding the knife. She could still feel the weight of it in her hand, still feel the way it sank too easily into him. Her breath caught. She pressed a shaking hand over her mouth. It wasn't supposed to go this far. Tom had been drunk, angry, accusing her of things that weren't true. He'd grabbed her wrist when she tried to walk away. She'd told him to let go. He didn't. She'd pushed him, and then the knife was between them, and the room exploded into silence. She crouched beside him, unable to stop herself. His skin was cooling fast. When she touched his neck, there was no pulse, her vision blurred. "Oh, God," she whispered, "what have I done?" The house felt alive around her, the refrigerator humming, the heater groaning, the clock ticking, every sound magnified. She thought about calling someone, the police, her sister, but what could she say? That she'd killed her husband because she was tired of being afraid, because she couldn't take one more night of his drunken rage? No one would believe her. They never did. Tom Ben. It was the charming man of Maple Hollow, the guy who helped his neighbors shovel snow, who smiled in church pews on Sundays, who told jokes at barbecues. No one saw him when the charm cracked. Laura stumbled to the sink and turned on the faucet, scrubbing her hands until the skin turned red. She couldn't stop shaking. The blood swirled down the drain in pale pink ribbons. She had to think, if she called the police, it would be over. She'd go to prison, her life, everything she had left gone. She looked out the kitchen window. The night outside was black and cold. The maple trees swayed in the November wind, their bare branches scraping against the glass like skeletal fingers. No one knew Tom was home early. His truck was parked behind the trees, hidden from the road. If she could clean this up, if she could make it look like he'd left after another fight. Her heartbeat quickened. She fetched a pair of yellow rubber gloves from under the sink and began cleaning. She moved like a machine, wiping the counters, scrubbing the floor, erasing any trace of what had happened. The lemon scent of the cleaner mixed with the metallic tang of blood until she couldn't tell where one ended and the other began. When she was done, she stood over him again, chest heaving. Now came the impossible part. She grabbed his wrists and tried to lift him. He was too heavy, the muscles in her arms screaming in protest. She paused, breathing hard, then adjusted her grip and began dragging him toward the back door. Each inch felt endless. His head bumped against the floor once, and she froze, waiting for him to move, to breathe, but he didn't. Porch light flickered as she stepped outside. The cold hit her like ice water. In the backyard, the old maple tree stood tall and still. Its roots curled through the soil like veins. Beneath it, the ground was soft from yesterday's rain. She fetched the shovel from the shed. The handle was splintered, the metal blade rusted, but it would do. The first shovelful of earth made her stomach twist. It was too loud, the scrape of metal against dirt echoing through the still night. She kept going anyway, her breath fogging in the cold air, her arms trembling with every motion. By the time she finished, her hands were blistered, her jeans streaked with mud. She dragged Tom's body to the hole, whispering through her tears. "I'm sorry, Tom. I didn't mean..." She couldn't finish the sentence. When it was done, she stood for a moment, staring down at the uneven patch of dirt. Her chest felt hollow. She wanted to scream, but the sound caught in her throat. The wind stirred the branches above, scattering brittle leaves across the yard. One landed on the mound, fluttering in the breeze like a dying heartbeat. Inside, she washed the knife and placed it back in the drawer. Her reflection in the window looked pale and strange, her eyes wide and unfamiliar. She changed her clothes, sealed them in a garbage bag, and took them outside to the bin. Then she poured herself another glass of wine and sat at the kitchen table again, staring at the empty chair across from her. The silence was unbearable. She almost laughed, a small, hysterical sound that died in her throat. Tomorrow, she'd say Tom left after another fight, that he packed his things and drove away. People would believe it. They always did, but when she glanced outside, her heart seized. Tom's truck was still parked by the trees, damn it. She whispered she'd have to move it, drive it somewhere far enough that no one would question it. But not tonight. She was too tired, too broken. She leaned back in her chair, closing her eyes. The clock kept ticking, steady and cruel. Tick, tick, tick. When she opened her eyes again, the room felt colder. Something about the night seemed wrong, heavy. She turned toward the window. The mound of earth beneath the maple tree had shifted, just a little, and in the faint silver light of the moon, she saw it a small glint near the surface. Tom's wedding ring. Her breath caught. The wind blew again, scattering a handful of soil across the yard, but the ring still gleamed as if the earth itself were refusing to keep her secret. Laura turned away from the window and gripped her wineglass until her knuckles turned white. The night wasn't over, it was only beginning. Morning light crept through the kitchen window, pale and hesitant. Inside, the house felt colder than the November air outside. Laura's eyes were puffy, her face etched with exhaustion and fear. But the worst of the night's horrors hadn't faded. They lurked in every corner, in every shadow. The tile beneath her feet still held faint stains of blood, though now blurred and indistinct, like a memory half erased. She washed her hands again, trying to scrub away the sticky remnants, as if cleaning them could somehow cleanse her mind too. But she knew better. Tom's truck was still parked behind the trees, exactly where she had left it. And the ring, that cursed ring, still gleamed at her from the small mound of dirt beneath the maple tree, as if the earth itself refused to swallow it. Laura sank into the kitchen chair and pressed her palms to her face. She had to think, she had to plan. She couldn't just sit there, waiting for the world to unravel around her. Just one day to figure it out. She whispered, her voice trembling, then maybe it can go back to normal. But deep down, she knew the truth. Normal was gone forever. Every sound in the house seemed amplified. The refrigerator's low hum, the creak of the heater, the clock ticking relentlessly. Laura flinched at each one. Even the shadows seemed to move, and then her phone buzzed. A message. You know what you did. Her heart slammed against her ribs. Laura stared at the screen. There was no name, just an unknown number. Her hands shook as she reread it. This wasn't a random text. Someone knew. Panic clawed at her chest. Her mind raced. If anyone found out about last night, there would be no turning back. She thought about Tom's truck again. She would have to move it, somewhere far, somewhere no one would ever think to look. But not tonight. Tonight, she needed time to breathe. Time to convince herself she could still control this. Laura walked to the kitchen window, staring down at the small mound of dirt in the backyard. Moonlight glinted on another small object, half buried, something she hadn't noticed before. Her stomach twisted. She pressed her hands to her face again, trying to steady herself. She wanted this to be over, to wake up and find it was all a nightmare. But it wasn't. It's not over, she whispered, not even close, and if anyone finds out, I'm done. Outside, the night pressed in like a living thing, heavy and watchful. Somewhere in the dark, someone was watching. Laura didn't know who, she didn't know why, but she knew this much. Her life had just become a game she wasn't allowed to lose, and the night had only just begun. The sun hadn't fully risen, but Laura was already awake. She hadn't slept more than an hour since the night before. Every sound, every creak, every distant bird set her nerves on edge. Her hands still trembled as she poured herself a cup of coffee, the bitter liquid doing little to calm her. Her phone buzzed again. She froze, staring at the screen. Another message from the same unknown number. You can't hide forever. Laura's stomach turned to ice. Someone had been watching her last night, seen what she had done. But who, how? She tried to think, tried to retrace her steps, her movements, anything that could have given her away, and then it hit her. The mound in the backyard, the ring. She hadn't buried it properly. She hadn't been careful enough. Someone could have seen it glinting in the moonlight. The realization sent a surge of panic through her. She couldn't go to the police. She couldn't tell anyone, not even her sister. If the truth came out, she'd lose everything, her freedom, her life, everything. Laura's mind raced as she paced the kitchen, then she stopped. There was a sound, a soft knock at the front door. Her heart leapt. She wasn't expecting anyone, not at this hour. She crept to the peephole and froze. It was Maggie, her next door neighbor, always cheerful, always friendly, always nosy. Laura. Maggie's voice called softly from the porch. Are you okay? I saw Tom's truck outside last night. Laura's throat tightened. How much had Maggie seen? She forced a smile, though it felt brittle, like cracked glass. I'm fine, Laura said, her voice shaking. Just a rough night. Maggie frowned, suspicion flickering across her face. I can see that. Do you need help? Laura shook her head, stepping back. No, I'm okay. The knock came again, louder this time. Laura, I know something happened. I want to help. Panic rose like bile in her throat. She backed away from the door, toward the kitchen, toward the window, but then she stopped. She realized something horrifying. Maggie knew too much. Too much for a neighbor to simply guess. Her mind reeled. Who else could know? And then memory struck. The way Maggie had lingered near the backyard last night. The way her eyes had caught the moonlight on the mound. Laura's hand went to the phone. She needed proof. She needed a plan. But before she could act, Maggie's voice came again, calm and low. You don't have to do this alone, Laura. I can help, but you have to trust me. Laura froze. Something in Maggie's tone wasn't right. The softness, the concern, it was too precise, too knowing. A chill ran down her spine. Then the truth hit her like a hammer. Maggie hadn't just seen something. She had orchestrated it. Every small slip, every glance, every moment of panic had been watched. And now Maggie had her. Laura's mind raced, every instinct screaming to run, to hide, to escape. But where? The house felt small, suffocating. The backyard where she had buried Tom offered no sanctuary, only witnesses. You don't understand, Laura whispered, backing toward the sink. It wasn't supposed to happen. I didn't mean to. Maggie stepped closer, eyes sharp and unyielding. I know exactly what happened, she said, and now you're going to help me. Laura realized with a sickening clarity that her life was no longer her own. The careful, calculated escape she had planned was gone. She had underestimated the darkness in others, and now she was trapped. Panic gave way to a cold, lethal clarity. Laura's survival instincts kicked in. She grabbed the nearest object, a heavy kitchen knife, and held it at her side, trembling but determined. Maggie's eyes didn't waver. Put it down, Laura. You can't win. Laura shook her head. I don't care anymore. I'm not going back. A tense silence fell. The kitchen, the house, the world itself seemed to hold its breath. And then, like a predator finally making its move, Maggie lunged. Laura swung the knife. Metal met flesh. There was a sharp cry, then silence. When she stepped back, her hands soaked, Laura realized something she hadn't expected. Maggie wasn't moving. Her lifeless body sprawled on the floor, and the truth sank in with a crushing weight. In her desperate bid to survive, Laura had crossed another line. She sank to the floor, shaking, staring at the mess, at the blood, at the life she had again destroyed. Her plan, her careful, perfect control of everything, gone. Outside, the morning sun broke over Maple Hollow. It was calm, quiet, beautiful, and yet Laura knew the darkness she carried would never leave. She would survive, yes, but at what cost? The house, once a home, was now a tomb of secrets, and Laura Bennett would never be the same. The world moved on outside, but inside she remained trapped in a heartbeat, forever haunted, forever hunted. By her own choices. Please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.